anybody, I don't think, that prioritizes cables be really, really big or strong.
Yeah, yeah. I like all that stuff because it's like interesting, isn't it? So, to look at it from a biomechanical point of view, and it, like, for us, it's interesting and it's quite fun to have a play about with. But for most people, like, you don't need to be messing about with all that stuff. Like, you know, James, the muscle mentor, the biomechanist. I think his page is class and like he's clever and the stuff that he puts on is great, but 99% of people don't need to be going to that degree with how specific they are with like elbow paths and angles and everything like that. Like, just basic not basic compound stuff, but your more standard, easier, simpler stuff done well with some intensity.
The thing is, like, plenty of people were getting great results before that was the craze.
Yeah.
I think probably where it comes in is like pretty much anyone, when they start training, if they take a pretty like well-rounded approach and they train in with a similar volume and a similar kind of intensity, within about 3, 4, maybe 2 years, you're going to some muscle groups stand out as being pretty good. Everything similar, and you'll probably have 1 or 2 that are not developing as well. And I think, at least, like, most people who you speak to, they're 1 or 2 weak muscle groups, they probably find them harder to like feel.
Yeah.
And they can't, if they get off, if they've done dumbbell side raises, they get off, and even though the exercise was hard, they don't think like, oh, my side delts are really killing.
Yeah.
Really managed to feel it. Now, for whatever reason, that seems to have some kind of impact on their progress. So it's a lot easier then to take somebody onto a cable or a resistance band, or even use manual resistance, find a position where they can actually kind of dig in and feel that muscle, start to build a connection there. And then when you've got a pump and you've felt that muscle on that exercise, you can go to your free weights and you can probably, you know, target that muscle a little bit better.
Yeah, totally. I think that's one of the best uses for them, is breaking it down to try and isolate that muscle all the more than if you can't in more of a compound movement or something like a free weight. It's like one of the seminars I went on, they were talking about like basically programming to activate the target muscles you're going to use before they're going into doing it. And like, even with lats, you can do that without even using anything. Like, the cables are quite a nice one to do to warm it up and activate it, but you can full on shorten and try and cramp your lat without even doing anything. If people can't do that, then they need to spend time actually trying to learn to contract the muscles and feel the muscles before they start doing anything to that degree.
Yeah, the way I've done it and the way I've kind of helped people when I used to do a bit of PT, well, take the biceps, for example. You would go into the easiest way to do it is make the muscle as short as possible. So it would be with your hand behind your head and your elbow facing up, and you would have them contract the muscle in that position as hard as possible until they feel that kind of cramping feeling. And then you would apply some kind of resistance, whether that be they hold a cable or a resistance band or a cuff with a cable on, or even you just apply some manual resistance. And I would want them to maintain that kind of cramping sensation, let the weight move as far away as possible until they lose that sensation, and then ease back on the contraction and bring it back. So with a bicep curl, they might only get this very small range of motion, but they can keep the muscle in that range of motion and activate it really well. From that, you can start to build a pump, and then you can start to work on building that range of motion up and up. And then you could take them on to another exercise, and it's much easier for them to try to find that feeling again once they've already done it once on whatever was the most kind of specific angle that they could feel. And kind of where the progression is. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out. They get onto like this cable cuff lateral raise or this lying crucifix cable side raise, and it feels really good for them. And they, for the first time ever, they feel their side delts working, or, you know, they go on the cable crossover with the tricep extensions, get the tricep fully shortened like a tricep push down. And it feels great because they can actually feel the muscle working. But then what use is that if you are glued to that exercise forever? Like,
if you can't then transfer
side raise for the rest of your lifting career, like, what you should then be doing is taking that new kind of proprioception and applying it to more and more exercises. And maybe a year down the line, you can do a shoulder press or a dumbbell side raise. They're all like the normal exercises and feel the way you wanted to in the first place.
Yeah, totally. It sort of mimics the like what you would do with rehab in a sense, I guess, you would regress things back to the sort of
you like have to relearn it
position, and then relearn it and then go from there, which I think 100% is the best way to do it. It's difficult sometimes when you get like, because I've had clients that like try to do one thing and they've got shoulder pain, so you say, right, well, let's regress it and try this, and then now I've got elbow pain, and it's like when you get that into it can be,
it's like, what can you do?
Literally, it provides a challenge, so it's good. But I've literally had some clients who have been like shoulder, elbow, wrist, knee pain, like all in one thing. You're literally like, how am I going to program around this? Well,
I think some of that seems to be genetic. Like some people seem to pick up knots and pains and stuff so easily, and other people, well, everybody's seen someone that trains terribly and yet they're not in any pain and they just feel good.
And that's a good point, because like you said, you see some people training, you see the form and you think like, and they'll be in like pretty good shape, and you think how
and they're not
how
injured.
have you got to that shape with the form that you've got without injuring yourself? Like, and just how have you got into that shape in the first place? Because if we're led to believe that sort of form is everything in activating muscles and doing it safely, like that shouldn't work. But on some people, it does, doesn't it? It's just like you said, it's genetics.
I think probably, well, the way I think of it is there's kind of like a threshold to reach. You have to create enough of a stimulus for the effect. And for some people, just training gets them enough of a stimulus. And other people who don't have as good genetics as it would be like the phrase for it, they need more and more of a specific stimulus to not only get that effect, but get it and not hurt themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
People come to me for deep tissue and they can be riddled with knots, but not in that much pain. And you get other people that come to you and they haven't got a knot anywhere, but yet they're in pain. So
yeah,
it definitely seems to be different ways that they would respond to the training like that.
Definitely. I was interested when you sent that message about digestion and stuff like that at the minute, with it sort of being a bit of a craze for people that don't actually have it as an issue. I
mean, sometimes I hold back on talking about that kind of thing, because I think, well, like, how do I know? Why should people listen to me? Like, I've not got a nutrition degree or anything like that, and I certainly can't give medical advice, but there definitely seems to be a craze on everything being about digestion now.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever bad to focus on the health of any area of your body. But everybody seems to want to be doing this, that, and the other to improve their digestion. And it's like, well, why do you think you've got a problem with your digestion? Particularly when, they're using an example of, maybe a professional bodybuilder that's eating 800, 900, 1,000 grams of carbs a day, in which case, to get that amount of food in, you have to pay so much attention to maintaining your appetite, maintaining, like your regularity. But if you're a smaller, more kind of normal person eating 200, 300, 400 grams of carbs, you're probably not running into that much of an issue. Like, if the human digestion was that, susceptible to suddenly not absorbing nutrients or calories, we wouldn't have such a problem with obesity. Like, so many people, their entire diet is poor quality food, and they're overweight, so they're clearly absorbing it.
Totally. I mean, you're totally right. And it is a big issue that I have to address a lot with clients is digestion, because a lot of the Gen Pop have some form of IBS symptoms. So it is something that we sort of look at, but it's stuff that you can fix just through your nutritional practice and your daily habits to a good extent without having to look down the supplementation route so quickly. And certainly when people sort of are using cream of rice to sort of maximize digestion and stuff like that, like, it's not, cream of rice doesn't do anything to digestion, it's more easily absorbed. So it might be easier, but then you've also, on the other hand, you've got the sort of the blood glucose response and
it's devoid of nutrients. Like it's just starch.
So it might be easy to digest, but then you could also argue on the flip side that because of the effects it has on your blood sugar, it's got a higher inflammatory marker response, which is going to be like negligible on digestion.
And I think, if you don't have symptoms that are affecting your like quality of life, like IBS symptoms, I think your gut health has to be pretty poor for it to have a knock-on effect to your training. From experience. Like, I have an intolerance / sensitivity to egg whites, which I know about. So, you know, as a teenager, I used to eat a lot of eggs because they're cheap. And when I was a student, I was eating a lot of egg whites out of the carton as a primary source of protein because they were. And I probably, looking back, had IBS symptoms, you know, but I just put it down to what everybody says, or, you know, like protein farts or, you know, full after a meal. That's why my belly's sticking out. Like, you know, you just kind of justify it in your head. And it wasn't until I got down a path where I was eating like, you know, 30 or 40 egg whites a day because they were a primary protein source, so I was drinking them, where I really had such severe symptoms that they thought I had Crohn's disease. Like I would register on a blood test that my white blood cells were so elevated, it was like I had poisoning. So, you know, I was suffering really bad symptoms by that point. You know, sometimes I couldn't stand up straight because I had such bad stomach cramps, not knowing what's going on. It took it to get to that stage for it to start impacting my training, where I probably wasn't absorbing much or all of my nutrients because I started actually losing weight and I couldn't figure out why. But that took like 6 or 7 years of escalating the amounts of those foods I was eating before it got to that stage.
Yeah. And you'll always get IBS responses before you get any sort of detrimental effect to weight or training or composition or anything like you said. And I can't imagine there'll be a lot of people having up to 30, 40 egg whites a day either. That's the thing. And you got people now that like pro bodybuilders not eating any red meat because they think it's worse for your digestion and they want to shrink their waist, and everybody eating all their carbs from cream of rice and jam and bagels. And it's like, you know, why do you think you are suffering that badly that you need to make such a drastic change to your diet? Yeah.
For me, it was simply a case of I'd look at my food diary when I was having these symptoms and I just took out one group of food and wait to see if that had an effect.
Elimination,
Back in and took out another one. And in the end, I only needed to take out one food. It's not like I needed to swap all my carbs to cream of rice and not eat any red meat and this, that, and the other. Like, no.
I completely understand the
give himself like super health.
Literally.
It's not like you get a power up. It's not like you have good digestion. Now you have super digestion. Taking probiotics and eating egg white and eating cream of rice. Like you have a problem or you don't. Like,
definitely. Like I completely understand the sort of cream of rice based and sort of bagels around post workout because of the insulin response and because
and you can eat a lot of them easily. So
but from a digestion point of view, I think it's pretty pointless. So I mean, with digestion, providing that you're getting a good amount of fruit and vegetable mix in your meal that are actually fresh sources, you're not wolfing down your meals and you're taking your time and you're not too stressed. I mean, stress is one of the main things that I found to be massively, like to the point where within some people, even like some of my clients, if they have a couple of days where they're stressed and anxious, their digestion will just go through the floor. The second their stress levels out and comes to normal, it's straight back to normal again. So that's can be as negative and have as negative an impact than some foods can, really.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads on to what we were saying before about people want to jump on a supplement to fix a problem. Want to jump on, you know, some kind of very specific practice or daily habit to fix a problem, when actually any supplement in the world, you can take all the supplements in the world to improve your digestion, and it's not going to have as much of an effect as if you were just less stressed. Just like, you know, the glucose resensitizing supplements and the insulin mimetics are so popular nowadays for like shuttling the carbs out of your bloodstream and keeping your insulin sensitivity high. You can take the berberine you want, or you could just do more cardio or bring your body fat a little bit and have a better effect. Like
increase your cardio, drop your body fat, your insulin's going to sort itself out. I mean, I've been tracking my blood glucose now for maybe about 6 or 7 weeks, maybe longer. And the second I increased my daily activity, like my daily steps up, it dropped from an average of about 5.9 a week to about 5.1 or high 4s in some cases, like just from increasing expenditure. Like it has such...
Yeah, and that's free.
It has such a massive effect that you don't need... supplements-wise for affecting your insulin just seems a waste of money.
Well, if any of the supplements worked that well, they would be sold as a prescription to diabetics, because a drug company would recognize we can make money off this and they will patent it. Like, that's why berberine is cheap. It's not patented, so anyone can sell it.
Yeah, true. But it's interesting because there is a big, I think, almost disbelief around insulin. Wait, well, I mean, what's your take on it? Because I've seen some people try and drive it as low as possible in order to sort of build muscle mass, and I don't know enough around it in that sense in terms of the levels of low insulin for increasing muscle mass and sort of changing body composition. But for me, it just seems like a daft, unless you're going to the nth degree, it seems like a daft thing to try and mess around with and keep low all the time. Like,
I think if you're talking about muscle mass and performance, so you're not about inflammation, because I don't really know as much about that side, but it would be counterintuitive to want to gain mass, so build tissue and lower and try to keep your insulin as low as possible, when insulin has so many effects that are positive for, you know, building tissue.
Yeah, because obviously it's like the main regulator of like your mTOR-C1 pathways that's going to help with your actual muscle synthesis. Like you need it. It's like a what's the term that they use? It's like a master effector or a master regulator for those muscle building pathways.
Well, yeah, and insulin has effects on sex hormone binding globulin, on IGF-1, on actually just getting carbs and protein and aminos into the muscle.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can take in nutrients into the muscle using the GLUT4 translate locators and things like that. But insulin is massively anabolic, mainly because it is very anti-catabolic.
Yeah, 100%. But I do think you see a lot of people just eating ridiculous amount of carbs around the training window in order to hit that insulin spike. But there is a cap on people's insulin response. Like there's going to be a certain level where they can digest, or insulin can react to so much amount of sort of sugar coming in from the foods, and then it's got to be capped. But it does.
Well, and you can only make so much at once. So your pancreas will release kind of globs and globs of insulin to keep bringing your blood sugar back down. It's not like you get a massive amount in one go, you know. But the other thing to that is I think so many people concentrate on like hour to hour or day to day management of these different things to build muscle. Like when you work out, you are then building muscle and repairing muscle for the next, you know, 24, 48, maybe even 72 hours. How much muscle mass do you think you're going to build in an hour after your workout?
Yeah.
Versus the 3 days. Like what happens right then is quite menial in the grand scheme of things, you know.
Yeah.
I would rather maintain like a positive energy balance for the next 2 days than just ram as much food in as I can in that window, like, and then just go back to a normal diet. Like, how much muscle mass do you really think you can accrue with that massive spike that lasts maybe 3 hours max?
Yeah. And we're only going to build muscle when we're in a state of rest anyway, which is linked quite nicely to what you were saying about people's training frequency for building mass just being far too high. When you see people literally training like every day or 6 days a week trying to build muscle, and it's like the most effective results, like you said you've had in the past, like 3 days a week, 4 days a week at most, making sure you're getting proper rest and nutrition in, and you'll see better gains than when
I have much better training sessions if I train probably 4 days max. 2 on 1 off works pretty well, but I've had times where I'll do longer workouts, maybe 2 and a bit hours, and done 1 day on 1 day off, and every session you get in you feel strong. And if your performance is better, you know, there's a lot to be said for, you know, you expand that over 4 months, 6 months, a year, and that has a big effect. I don't know how people are managing to do 5, 6, 7 days a week.
No, I don't. And I try making the point to people that, like the clients and stuff like that training literally just provides a stimulus to grow. It doesn't cause you to grow. It will break your muscle tissues down. It'll give it a stimulus for your body to adapt, but without actually allowing for rest and eating properly, it's never going to happen. All you're going to constantly do is break down tissue, and break down tissue.
Well, and it can actually interrupt the training stimulus from the day before.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like if you have a scab and you pick it off every day, it takes a lot longer to heal than if you just let it do it by itself.
Yeah, and it's like, because I remember I went to one of my first seminars I went to was last year or the year before. It was like a Mark Cole's one, and they were on about training programming for building muscle, and they were literally like upper body, lower body split 4 days a week is like one of the best programs generally for most people that you can do.
I agree, yeah.
And at the time I was like, it doesn't seem like a lot, it sounds a bit basic, and like since I've done it, basically used that since like over a few years now, it's been class. but it's getting that people have that perception of if it's a full body or if it's an upper lower body, it's basic, it's for beginners, it's not a bro split, it's not a bodybuilding split, so it's not important.
People have to get their head around the fact that you don't need to do 5 or 6 exercises in an hour and a half for one muscle.
Not all. I think if you can't get what you need to get for that muscle out of 3 exercises at most, you're not doing those exercises right. If you have to do 6 or 7 exercises to fully fatigue and get the response out of your chest, for example, that you're wanting, then you're not doing those exercises right. You should be able to do 2 or 3 properly, and you should be able to get a good enough response to leave it for a few days and then come back to it.
Yeah, the way I explain it to people is like, I say you've got like a normal person's like, you know, bro-y chest workout. It might be 6, maybe even 7 exercises long. I say you're in a rush one week, so you miss off that last exercise because you have to leave the gym early. Are you still going to grow from that? Would you still get a result? Well, most people would probably say, yeah. Like the whole workout hasn't been wasted. Okay, so now you're down to 5 exercises. Well, what happened if you only did 4? Like, was there any point coming to the gym? Like, yeah, there still was. How much can you cut it down and still get something done? You know, make it worth doing.
Yeah,
probably 3 exercises, pretty well.
Yeah, and I think I saw.
If you go into the gym and you're told, well, you only can do 3 exercises. That's all you're allowed to do today. So you better make them as hard as possible. You better push your sets as hard as you can. Yeah. Suddenly you can condense the work down into a lot fewer exercises.
And yeah, the Joe Bennett put, the hypertrophy coach, he put a good saying on the other day on that, literally saying, when you're training to build muscle, it's all about getting the most out of as little as possible, which I think is spot on. It's doing 2 or 3 exercises and making them count, having, whether that's a few warm-up sets and then actually going for it, like you sort of, it's like more of a Jordan Peters style, isn't it? Really doing sort of your working set and back off set, but that's interesting. Like, so have you seen the, obviously, like, there's Jordan Peters' way of doing it, and then there's Mikey's Retails, which is like reps in reserve, sort of more.
Jordan Peters' way. Jordan Peters was influenced by Dante Trudel.
Yeah, I've heard him talk about him. It's not someone I know.
That's his DC training or dog crap training.
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
That's since I was 17. Like, logbook your lifts is like in fashion at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, when I was 14 and I first went to the gym in 2008, I took my logbook with me and I wrote my workout down, and I've done it every workout since. Like, going on long before Jordan Peters got Instagram. Like,
yeah.
So he's kind of, adapted it and, kind of added his own take on it. But the whole low volume, maximizing frequency, getting the most out of the least, really was kind of made popular by Dante Trudel.
Yeah.
And his whole idea was most people could get just as good a results. Like if you look at the whole workout, like we said, the 7 exercise chest workout that most people are doing, most of their results have come from like the first 2 or maybe 3 exercises. The stuff that's added on to the end, each ongoing set is adding less and less to your overall effect. Yeah. In which you might as well write all that off, do the first bit, and then come back 4 days later and do it again. And now, if you got one person that's training chest once a week and they never miss a workout for the entire year, you got 52 chest workouts in. Now, like you were saying, the workout just gives you the stimulus. And your chest probably isn't growing for 6 days afterwards till you'd hit it again in a week. It probably grows and then it kind of maintains. It might even drop off a little bit. Now, if you train chest every 5 days, so 3 times every 2 weeks, then over the course of a year, rather than 52 chest workouts, you're going to get 78, right? So now you've got 78 workouts versus the other person's 52. And if you've managed to make all 78 productive over a year, you've got half as much again on the workouts. Well, if you manage to do it twice a week, then now you've got 104 chest workouts in a year. So this is how, like, you look over a year or 2 years or 5 years, because really bodybuilding, trying to gain that much size, wanting to bodybuilder size is not a 1-year pursuit. It's more like a 5, 10, maybe even 20-year pursuit. But if you can increase the amount of frequency like that and expand it over 10 years, that's how you're going to make faster progress with people.
Yeah.
And kind of the next step of Dante Trudel's ideas was, well, how can you get the most out of the least? And he had some different specific rules on certain exercises he felt should be rest paused. So it was like 15 deep breaths worth of rest, go again and again. So you get like 3 mini sets, which is actually very difficult to explain to like a normal guy in the gym who's spotting for you. But And then other exercises he thought were better with straight sets, like deadlifts and bent over rows. And he had basically like a beginner split, which was almost your upper lower, although it was lower body and biceps, like pretty much full upper body. So chest, shoulders, triceps and back. And he had recommendations on how many exercises each muscle would need. You know, it was 2 for back, 1 for chest, 1 for quads, 1 for hamstrings, 1 for calves, and that was your legs. And some other different rules that went into it. And then there was a way to progress into like the intermediate split, which was push-pull legs. And then further down the line, there was like an advanced split, which was kind of like a bro split, but you got more frequency in there. And I trained like that for a very long time, and I liked it a lot. And the other thing that's wrong with it that I'd probably slacked on a bit, and I think almost everybody who ever followed DC training probably slacked on it, was there was a lot of stretching that you had to do.
Yeah.
Muscle group, when it was trained, you then did a weighted extreme stretch, it was called for it. And he believed that improved recovery further.
Yeah, well, that would improve recovery. But it's literally, especially if he's doing it weighted, you are just taking that muscle through its lengthened position under resistance. So
it's essentially an isometric contraction.
Yeah, that lengthened tension is where there is the most potential for growth, and it's where most people don't really take a muscle tough. They'll like you were saying earlier, with your muscle, you're taking point A to point B, are you? Just making it as short as possible. Most people won't take it into that fully lengthened position. And chest is probably a bad example because most people's shoulders can't take them back all the way. But certainly with legs and back and stuff like that, people aren't getting a full range. And in that lengthened position for lats there is where you're going to get a lot of the muscle growth over time.
Well, they're not. And a lot of exercise you do don't allow you to, even though you do full range of motion, somebody would say, you do the full range of motion of the exercise, not of the muscle. Yeah. So a barbell press for chest, you don't get the pecs anywhere near through a full range of motion.
No.
And if you do a close grip lat pull down, so you come down, you can get the lat through a pretty big range, but you can't get a full range of motion, because to get the lat fully shortened, you would want to pick the hip up and bring that close to your elbow. You can't do both sides if you're using a bar. But you will never find an exercise that can take one muscle through its entire range.
No.
So the stretching would offer that, allowing you to get at least to the fully lengthened part that an exercise probably wouldn't have done.
Yeah,
I trained like that for a very long time. And when I kind of strayed away from it, I kept the core like concepts of getting the most out of the least and things like that. And then it was about last year, finally I felt like I needed a bit of a break. I was kind of plateauing, and I don't think it was due to the training, but I decided to just pretty much change everything. And although I did more volume, I probably still wasn't doing volume training. I just, and the hardest thing I find with that kind of low volume training is mentally how much of a toll it would take on you.
You've got to be in it, haven't you? You've got to get.
If you go into your workout and and last week, you did, X amount of weight and you got 18 reps on your squats, and you've only got one chance to get 19 or 20 this week. And if you don't, it ruins your workout because you're so pissed off. Like you carry a lot of stress with that, and actually that would start to hinder my appetite.
Yeah,
because I'd be constantly stressed thinking about this set I've got to do tomorrow, or trying to eat my pre-workout meal and I've got butterflies because I know how difficult it's going to be. So rather than pushing it over like 1 or 2 sets per exercise, I essentially just added more sets. Maybe I'd be doing 3 or 4 sets of 8, for example. I got one with 4 sets of 8. On the last set, I only just managed 8, so it was like almost a failure. Next week, I might try get 9, 9, 8, 8.
Yeah.
Or I might try get 3 9s instead of 4 8s. And then the week after that, maybe get a 4th 9. So I just made the progression over more sets. And honestly, it was a nice break. It was a nice break mentally. And I was able to maintain my appetite a little bit better. And my training's been going pretty well like that. And I do that. But then it makes me think, I wonder how strong or how much better I could get when I start to work these sets back down and increase the frequency a bit. It's been a nice break, but I wouldn't...
Well, you need to cycle those training phases, don't you? Your body needs that time of not necessarily a deload, but certainly a different stimulus to adapt to, because over time, even doing the same thing, high intensity, lower volume, your body will become accustomed to that type style of training. So giving it something new to sort of almost shock it is never going to be a bad thing.
Yeah. And it actually, doing more sets like that, although with the low volume stuff, kind of one of the advantages is, especially if you do like a rest pause set or cluster sets or any of those kind of thing, you get a lot of reps that are close to failure. So you get a lot of reps that have a lot of mechanical tension, where though you're moving it as fast as you can, it can only go slow. If you do the volume, well, a little bit more volume anyway, and you do that over more sets, you get more perfect reps.
Yeah. And I think
there's a trade-off there.
There is, yeah. And the combination of the both is class, because I know cluster sets were popular with like Charles Poliquin and stuff, and I know he had a lot of people doing them. And there is that opportunity to get that high mechanical loading under a higher volume as well, which is class for something different. Most people don't do it. I don't really ever see anyone doing sort of cluster set based training. I think more people should do it, but it is getting, for me, it's sort of, when I speak to people, just sort of your standard everyday gym goer, is getting them to sort of understand that this adopted row split of chest Monday, back Tuesday, like, it's outdated. It's been adopted from people, from bodybuilders, obviously, of a different era, who were training like 3-4 hours a day, doing maybe chest on the morning, then back in the evening, and then coming in the next day. So they're still getting that frequency in. But now, like you were saying, people come in and just do one body part a day. If you miss that session, then you're missing out on a week's worth of
only like 2 weeks between your workouts.
Yeah, like you can train, and providing your recovery is in a good position, 2 or 3 days, you should be good to go again. So like you should be hitting everything, every 3 days, twice a week, ideally. Like you were saying.
Yeah, and actually, if you do everything once a week, well, you're not taking into account size of the muscle.
Yeah.
Why, if you look at the amount of work done over a week, why would your bicep need as much volume as your quad? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Carry over between workouts. So your quads only probably really get 1 workout a week there. But your triceps, they definitely get hit on chest day. Definitely get hit if you do arms. And they will get hit a little bit when you're doing shoulders. So your triceps have got a lot of carryover. Your shoulders probably have the most, because they're getting hit a lot in your front delt when you do chest, somewhat in your rear delt, and maybe even in your side a bit when you do back. Plus most full shoulder workout, and some of the stuff they do for arms is going to hit shoulders as well. Yeah. So some things in there are getting like lots of small amounts of work throughout the week, and other things are only getting 1 workout. So even though you're trying to standardize it and do 1 workout per week, it doesn't really fit.
No, that's interesting that you mentioned that about the front delts, because it'd be interesting to know your thoughts, because I know I've sort of sent you screenshots of some of my clients with sending them on to you for it, is the amount of sort of people that have that internal rotation at the shoulder, and are getting, through pressing movements and everything, just paying through the frontal delts, or certainly using the front delts for pressing a lot more than the chest are. And so it's like, for me, when I program, and with my own training, like scap retractions is just such a integral sort of part of like warming up and stuff like that, to get the mid to lower traps firing, so that we can keep the shoulders back and try and over time address that postural issue, because it just seems so common.
I think there's 3 parts to it, really. I think one is lifestyle. So they're sat at a desk, they're in this position, everybody's on their phone all the time, so they're in this position. Like, everything we do is in front of your body. Couple that with like a lack of awareness, people don't realize that they're in a bad posture position. And actually, if they just thought about it, most times you can think, I need to sit upright. So they spend a lot of time practicing that shoulder forward position because they're not really aware of it. They have a lifestyle which lends themselves to being in that position more and more, which they're not, so they're doing it more. And then their training doesn't address any of it at all. Like, even when they're doing back, a lot of people don't really get their shoulder blades back as much as they could. And when you do a chest exercise, most people who are into powerlifting will do it, but a lot of people that are into bodybuilding will not. You should tuck your shoulders back and put your sternum up.
Yeah.
Keep your shoulders safer. But a lot of people don't do that. So it's kind of all 3. It's like lifestyle, plus their training isn't addressing it, and then they're not aware of the problem. They're just aware that they're getting pain.
Yeah.
So I think fixing any one of the 3 probably can't fix their lifestyle, because if it's their job or whatever, change. But you can address it with the other 2.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's interesting, because most of the time, even when you show those sort of retraction-based exercises people start doing, they can't do them to begin with.
Yeah, you say put your shoulders back and you put your shoulders up.
Yeah, literally, it's such an upper trap dominance, isn't it? It's so common.
One of the things I found useful for that, and the same for people that get really tight pecs or front delts when they're training chest, is I have them train rear delts with chest. I do 2 presses and a 3rd exercise rear delts, and then go on to maybe their 3rd chest or shoulder exercise, and then finish with rear delts. And it doesn't make sense from a bro point of view. Why would you test rear delts mid-workout? And they are going to lose a bit of their chest pump. But actually what ends up happening is they do an exercise where they practice scapular retraction, so that's good. It pulls some of the blood out of their front delts so they can help lose it off. It's a lot easier for people to stick to doing, right, now you're going to do rear delts with chest than it is if I tell them, right, you need to start doing some stretching throughout your chest workout. Most people aren't really going to do that. And finally, nobody's in danger really. Well, not nobody, but very few people are in danger of training rear delts too much. So getting them to do some extra work in the week is only ever going to be a good thing. A lot of people don't really do enough work for rear delts compared to their front and side delts.
Yeah, and the trade-off of like the decrement in the weight that they could lift on that following chest set after doing rear delts is going to be far outweighed than their improved ability to actually recruit the chest properly through that exercise now. Because of that.
Yeah, and if they're getting pain and tightness, a lot of times I find they're stronger on the third chest exercise than they would have been anyway, because they've now loosened the joint off, and they've probably got a little bit better scapular stability because of the blood in their rear delts, and they've practiced the scapular retractions. If my shoulders are getting tight, I often do it, and I'm actually stronger afterwards. So it gets in people's head that then they're losing their chest pump, so they don't.
Yeah, which no one wants.
Yes.
So, have you got anything else that you want to sort of talk about, or?
Can't remember what
we'll get cut off soon anyway. I think because it's capped to an hour.
Oh, is it? I don't know how long we've been going.
About 50 minutes.
Oh, cool. No, but we could do a few if you like throughout the weeks.
Sounds good to me, man. Yeah, I enjoy them. It's something different, and I've recorded this one just to sort of see how it sounds. So if I figure it out, I'll send you the recording over so you can have a listen.
Yeah.
We'll do a few more, to get a few topics.
And then it's up to you if you want to post the entire thing or maybe do some clips.
Yeah, might be. Yeah, I'll have a think.
I don't know if there's a limit on how long you can post an IGTV thing.
It's an hour. It's an hour, so it'll be within that. So it could be good to do it. To be fair, just to put it on.
The only thing is, like, not that many people are going to sit down for an hour with their Instagram open. So. No.
So yeah, there's definitely some thought around that to be done. But like I said, I'll see what I can do because I've not recorded anything on here before, so I don't know how to sort of take stuff off of it. So I'll save it and have a mess about with it, and if I can, I'll try share it on OneDrive or something to send you a link.
Yeah, and then maybe even see if like any of your followers or anything have got any questions. That might work.
Yeah, I'll do a poll like I did the other day and get some questions off of that. And we'll go from there, dude. Sweet. Right then. Well. We'll call it there, and I'll speak to you later in the week.
Give us some content to post.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Right. Nice speaking.